sometimes, but
Sorry about that.
it did go negative, and since that time I've only done one trip, which is about 500 miles, and my oil leakage was decreased very noticeably, but I still had some leakage.
And do you know, Mike, what was the leakage coming out of through the bottom of the transmission? Or
I think this car has also got a rear main seal kit on it.
okay.
But I believe that the seal kits are not 100% effective. And I think when the crankcase pressure is positive, a little bit of oil still gets past that seal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it sounds like it's a reasonable approach, Mike.
A reasonable approach. Don't expect a total success or a total solution, but it could improve things. It's certainly been my experience. It certainly improved things.
And it seems fairly simple to do as well, without any drastic modifications.
It's easier on a 6 than a 4.
Yeah, that's what it looks pretty easy in the diagram he's got. Okay, thanks.
And Skip Saunders, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I know several years ago we got into this, and we fitted 2 or 3 kits to BJ8s, or the 6-cylinder cars anyway, and they were never that successful. And we haven't done one for several years. We tend to stick with the rear seal, and we have, you know, reasonable luck with that.
Okay.
So the rear seal, obviously, you're removing the gearbox to do that rear seal, Bob, right?
Oh yeah. So,
yeah.
So Mike, it sounds like you're looking at a initial easier solution first, right?
If I can, yeah. I'm not ready to go that major at this point. It's not leaking all that much, to be quite honest, but it's enough that if there's something simple that I can do, I'd like to attempt it.
Well, you're a very lucky guy if it's not leaking much.
Well, I mean, you know, you have to define much, right? But my friend doesn't like when I drive over and park in his driveway. Let me put it that way. So
You need to get better friends.
yeah, that's it. Or somebody with a gravel driveway, right? So
There you go. Yeah, I do. When I go to my mother-in-law's house, I don't park the car in the driveway, I leave it out on the street. So
yeah,
I know your experience, Mike.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks. That's great feedback. I just wanted to know if there were any downsides to trying it. It sounds like not. So I'm going to give it a whirl.
So Skip Saunders, I see you keep posting things in the chat group. Maybe not everyone's familiar with chat. Do you have some thoughts there for Mike? You're on mute, Skip. Bless you.
That was my kneeless wife.
Okay. Okay. So again, if you want to, so we got 10 chats out here in the chat room. So
Okay.
I'm not sure, but okay. Well, that's anyone else have any thoughts for Mike as it relates to that with his 6-cylinder?
So does Moss sell a rollout kit that when you pull up to somebody's driveway, that you roll the thing underneath the car? You know, like a kitty litter box or whatever it is. A diaper.
They're called pig mats, and we sell them down at the store. Yeah, they do. It's called a pig mat.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what stores can you buy a pig mat at, Mike?
You should be able to get a pig mat at any
Okay.
auto parts store.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Ken.
And Norman Knox, how do you spell his name? Or
NOCK, Norman Knock, and his son David's running the business now. He's in Northern California, the Stockton area, I believe.
Yeah, a British car specialist has it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, hey, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. I'll let you know how I do.
Great. And David Maruvi was on hold earlier, and I see you're on mute right now, but David's he had recently had his speedometer rebuilt, and he's interested in putting in new bulbs and looking at the LEDs, and he's seeing what Moss has for sale there. So Dave, anything else you want to add to your question there regarding the bulbs for your speedometer?
I'm gonna be putting that back in here in the next, I don't know, 2 days or so. I'm just wondering if I should change the bulbs. And this works for you.
David, we're having a really hard time hearing you. David, can you try that again?
Yeah, how about that, Pete? Is that better?
Perfect.
Okay. I was going off a monitor instead of my laptop. Yeah, I'll just repeat. Had the speedometer rebuilt from Mopamo. I can't remember the name of it there. And I got that back, and I want to put it back in, and I wanted to replace the bulbs just to see if I could get a little more brightness, as well as I've never changed them before, so chances are they're fairly old, and I'm just wondering what people are using.
And you're inquiring about LED lights, bulbs, and is that what you're discussing, Dave?
If that's the way to go, I'm not sure LED is the cure for everything. I know they're typically brighter, but is that what people are replacing their bulbs with? That's a question.
I don't have any experience with that. Does anyone have any experience with bulbs on the dash? So Mike Salter's shaking his head no.
I just did some research on this. I don't know if the bulbs are the same as the Sprite, but in Moss sells, they sell one of the bulbs you need. I think it might fit in the speedometer, but there's like, they talk about a long and a short version of it. And when I talk to Moss, they recommend to use the short version. That one screws in, right? And the LED version of it's like just sort of cut off, so it fits in. But then there's another bulb that they'll call ears. It's got ears on it, right, which are smaller for some of the other gauges, and those actually end up ordering for out of China. Moss didn't sell them, and they're LED. I'm trying to brighten up the lights on the dash because they're just these small incandescent bulbs.
Right.
And like I said, one's got ears. That's how they literally call it the ear bulb on Moss's catalog. And then the other one is the screw in, and there's a number for it actually.
So Alan, have you actually installed these yet?
I'm waiting for them to come from China.
Oh, okay. Supply chain problems. You'll have them. You'll have them by 2030.
I hope so. I mean, they mail them to you, so hopefully it'll get here faster than that. We'll see what happens. But the point I'm trying to make is just that LEDs they're definitely brighter. My whole Sprite, I changed all the bulbs over to LEDs, and the car lights up. It's much brighter. Since it's like riding around on a motorcycle, I figured it's better to have it, lit up like a Christmas tree, so a soccer mom doesn't run over me. But the other bulbs work great, and those you can buy. I probably should know the name of the bulb. I mean, the model of the bulb, but you can get them in colors, red, amber, and white, and they've been working good. The only thing you have to do on a flasher, though, you have to get a special flasher relay that understands these bulbs, because they take so little power. And
Okay.
so normal analog stuff. So I don't know if you'll have a relay problem in a speedometer kind of situation, in a dash situation. But if you do, you can get relays that are more aware of low voltage bulbs.
Okay.
Can
Anyone?
mention regarding LED bulbs, on 100, when you've got the headlights on and the blower running and the wipers running, the battery's just charging at about 8 amps. So you can only do it for a short period of time. I switched my headlight bulbs over to LEDs specifically to decrease the voltage, the current drain, and it has made a vast improvement. The lighting is just fine, and the generator keeps up.
Thanks, Mike. Good.
Peter, we've changed bulbs for customers to LED systems a number of times. I can't remember how many, because people didn't like the dimness of the dash lights, et cetera, or wanted more lights on the road.
Yep.
The headlight conversion, you have to change the whole fixture to change to the LED bulbs for the headlight.
No, not on the, well, the ones that I bought from the UK, I have the semi-sealed, with the bulb style of headlights. And they have a bulb which goes straight into that holder, doesn't have change anything else, just plug straight in. Plug and play.
That's true with a headlight that has a bulb in it. But with a
That's
sealed
right, for the
beam,
type of headlight with a bulb, yes.
with a sealed beam, you have to change the fixture a bit.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah. Moss sells the entire kit for both sides. It's, I don't know, it's $150 or maybe a little, I don't remember the price of it. It's not inexpensive, but it really lights up the highway when you're going down the highway. As far as the dash bulbs are concerned, David, you wouldn't have any trouble. You could go to an auto, to a O'Reilly's or any place like that, and they'll have a vast selection of LED bulbs. Just look at the base and find one that matches the bulbs that you pull out, and it'll swap right over for about half the price that you could buy them from Moss. It's just a simple plug-in. The only problem you can run into with your BJ8 is if you try to do the bulbs in your indicators, in your directional indicators on the dash, because they feed back through the other bulb for ground, and the little bit of current that's feeding back will actually ignite the second bulb, so they'll both flash together like you have flashers on, rather than just one at a time, either the right or the left. So there you have to use a ballast resistor, and that gets pricey and difficult to get in up at the behind the dash. So it's easy to do if all you want to do is your speedometer and your odometer. I mean your speedometer and your tachometer light bulbs. But it gets a little bit complicated when you try to go to the directional signals.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. That's good advice. I've never done that before, Dave. So that's interesting. If it sounds, it's pretty easy and straightforward to do. So that sounds good. Now, Dave, do you drive your car much at night?
Yeah, a fair amount.
Okay, well, that's
Yep.
good. Okay.
And I actually have got, I think, fairly original headlamps, seal beams or whatever. So I'm thinking about doing those as well.
So as Bob mentioned there, if it with a seal beam, there's another conversion needs to be on there. What Mike Salter was talking about is if you have bulbs that have a separate element in there, similar to what you'd have with driving lights, that would, a halogen driving light, so that wouldn't require. It's not a seal beam. You have the separate light fixture. But most,
like I said,
go ahead,
I think
sorry.
mine are old seal beams, so
Yep.
I'm probably going to go that same route and just get some new ones.
Gotcha. Okay, great.
So for Mike Salter, are those H4s? Is that what is that just a bulb that you bought that was like an H4?
Yeah, they are. The H4 bulb is the type that goes straight into the semi-sealed headlight, and then it has a turned case, and that's the bulbs that I used to replace them. And I bought them from a place in the UK called Regulator Rebuild, or Electronic Regulator Rebuild, or something or other. I've put it before on this site. The first set they sent me were no good, and they were a set of replacements which are fabulous.
Oh, good.
So a lot of people who used to upgrade their lights to like CBA lights, right? Back in the day, there was a company that I think they're French, that people were changed out the seal beam for H4, which are halogen bulbs back in the day. It was the state of the art. So if you did that conversion, I mean, it's not a really big conversion. You just swap the whole thing out, and it still has the 3 prongs, right? That plug in. That worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I did it really because of the generator drain. That was my problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Well, so Alan, since you're up, so Alan's as you guys we've talked about in the past, has done a number of enhancements to his Sprite, and you want to give us a brief update as it relates to that, Alan, and I'll share some of those pictures that you sent over.
Great, thanks. Yeah, if you can show the dual fuel pump configuration.
Well, let me see if I can get to
Oh.
that.
You
You
okay.
sent so many, Alan.
I did. You know, this is an
Um,
opportunity.
Let's see if I can get to the right ones. So, and that doesn't like that, what I just did. Why don't we start with the brakes first? then?
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. So, yeah, I just said, so I think I mentioned before I put disc brakes on the back of the car. This is what they look like. So I shared that with you. It's not totally completed. I haven't seated the nuts yet. So for anybody who notices the fact that those
Yeah, they're not turned up.
Yeah, what are those? What is there a name for that kind of device? What is that?
The
you know,
locking tab.
Locking tab. Okay, cool.
Is it someone have a better name for that than a locking tab? You fold that over on the bolts so they won't loosen up? That's what I call them a locking
Okay.
tab.
Okay. I see them only in the back. They were on the back before, but the fronts don't seem to have it. And the front the car had disc brakes already on the front. I did swap out the rotors. Okay, so here's the first question. I guess if we get a chance to see it, I added dual fuel pumps, or I guess a redundant fuel pump, if you would, given my conversations with Pete and his the fact that he had one.
Yep.
So I just have a picture of that just to get some opinions on how that's going to look.
Let me see if I'm going to exit my full screen here and you go back to your email, Alan.
No problem.
Alan, you had those pumps in series, didn't you?
Yeah.
I don't think that'll work. In my opinion, I don't think it'll work very well. I tried that on a race car once, and the difficulty is that the first pump will put you up to 3 psi. If you turn both pumps on together, you'll end up with 6 psi, which may be too much for the needle valves and the carburetors. I think you're better to run the pumps in parallel. So if you happen by chance to have them both turned on at the same time, you won't exceed the pressure that the carburetor is going to handle.
Okay. Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, so hopefully you guys can see this picture. The one on the bottom is the one that came with the car. The one on the top is one I just got. So they are in series, although my plan is to actually wire this up with a three-way toggle switch, which means you can only have one pump active at a time. And the middle is for it's just a trick to make the car less stealable. Is if you set it in the middle, you don't get any fuel at all. I've seen people will do cutoff switches so that you can't just start the car and go. But this configuration, assuming only one pump is running, does that look reasonable? Like with that second pump, which is it's behind the first, would it have enough? Does it lose any material pressure if that's the one that's running?
I can interject here. I think I told you when you first thought of this that I have a 51 Mercury with a flathead with Strombergs on it, and they use the same amount of pressure, no more than about 2.5 to 3.5 pounds. And I've been running this type of system with that 3-way toggle switch for over 30 years, and it's worked like a champ. And no, you do not lose any pressure.
Great. Okay. Well, we'll give it a shot. And so hopefully, Michael, I won't be in that situation where both of them can get lit up, right? But I appreciate the warning. But like I said, the switch I have it'll only do one or the other.
Yeah, so I have a toggle switch on mine, Alan, so I can flip between them.
Yeah. Yep. And quite frankly, this was a fear thing because you guys were talking about being stranded on the side of the road with a bad pump, and I'm trying to build this car so that my wife and my daughter can drive it, and I don't get a lot of grief about the car not running. So it's all preventative kind of strategy.
Yeah,
here.
just call in here for your marriage counseling, Alan.
Yeah.
We'll take care of it for you.
I will. I'm happy to. Okay. So
I'd like to add, Alan, I have a BJ8 and I have a Lucas pump in the back and a Facet fuel pump in the front that runs 3. They both are rated for 3.5. And I've been doing that for 10 years and it works fine. I've never overloaded the needle valves.
Okay.
With them both running.
Both running all the time.
Interesting. I can tell you that car that you can see in my background, that runs Weber's. And we had 2 Facet pumps in that car, and they were in parallel, not in series. We found that car flat out up a steep hill, one Facet pump couldn't supply enough fuel. So we put a switch on the throttle. So when you were at full throttle, the second pump kicked in. And that was the solution to our fuel starvation problems. So, just an aside for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I bought the Facet pump, you can buy them for different gallons per minute, or they're rated differently.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I'm using a Facet pump on 2 of my Sprites, and I'm just using the Facet. I don't even use the SU on the new ones, and they're working great.
And
Not
you
any
can always
problems.
put a fuel, you can always put a regulator in line too.
If it's too high?
Yes.
Okay. So I have Weber. I have a Weber in this car too. But I don't know if that's been my problem yet. But that's a good plan if it's too much. Okay. So moving on, as Pete kind of previewed there, the disc brakes, I put the disc brakes on the rear wheels. It has what's called a proportioning valve, because you got to eventually you want the rear wheels to lock up right after the front wheels do. But here's the question. So I did the old school way of bleeding the brakes, which is, you start in the back. So, the other thing, I upgraded from a single circuit master cylinder to a dual circuit master cylinder. So the back, the back is got its own circuit, and the front's got its own circuit.
Alan, is this the picture you want?
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
That's the proportioning valve.
Yeah. That's the whole kit right there. So that's all brand new. And yeah, you can see that the proportioning valve is actually on the rears. This was
Okay.
based on the guys who sold me the
So what's that little valve there you see that's in line there in that hard line?
that's the proportioning valve.
Right. Okay. That's what I thought. Okay.
And so
That's actually a limiting valve, not a proportioning valve.
thank you.
It limits the maximum pressure that can go to the wheels.
Okay, there you go. So that limiting valve, now that we know, that's good. That's good. Always good to know that you're using the right terminology. And so right now that's all wide open, because when you're bleeding the brakes, you don't put that on. The simple problem I'm having is, so I did the old school pumping. I got my wife in there pumping the brakes for me, and I open up the backs. I opened the far back, and I pumped, and I did all the brakes. And as far as I could tell, I got all the air out of it. Like you just watch on a clear tube, you're watching the bubbles go into a reservoir of fluid, and they look like, I kind of had all the air out, but it's still spongy. And I did it twice. And so I'm looking for best practices on how to bleed brakes, so I can try. My expectation is I should be able to push that brake to the floor. That everything should resist.
Well, you don't want to push the brake to the floor. That means you don't have any brakes.
Right.
That's what you don't want to do.
Yeah, that's
You want a firm pedal.
exactly.
Now, if you pump it, so if you get 1 or 2 pumps, Alan, do you get a firm pedal then?
Yeah, kinda. But you can still push it eventually to the floor.
And really? Now, have you converted to silicone or you .4?
No, we went through this conversation. I stayed with .4, I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, theoretically, you should have a firmer pedal with that, but
Yeah, and I upgraded all the lines are new, and also the flex lines are steel braided, right? And so everything is, there's no more rubber theoretically.
and you started at the rear wheel furthest away from the cylinder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the passenger wheel. No, and in my case, it's the passenger's
Okay.
rear.
But now did you think you still had any air in there?
Not that I could, well, not that I could see. I'm ready to open it up again just to see, but in other words, I flushed a quart of this, you can see that reservoir isn't huge, right? And I flushed a quart of this, of fluid through it, right? And, I don't know where the air is hanging out. Now, what I didn't do, I didn't season or do anything special for that master cylinder. Like a buddy of mine who works on American Cars said, you're supposed to like, I don't know, prime
Bench
the
bleed?
master- Yeah,
Bench bleed?
bleed. That I didn't do that. I don't even know what that was. Do I have to do that? Do I have to do something like that?
I'll let the experts talk. Any recommendations for Alan on his spongy brake pedal?
Becomes
Any
a case
thoughts?
of, Al, it becomes a case of diagnosis. You've got to start at the beginning and work your way through. So if you really want to do it right, you put plugs in both the ports of the master cylinder and see if the pedal is rock hard. Then you hook up the rear brakes and see if the pedal goes soft. And then you plug the rears and hook up the front and see if the pedal goes soft. Because you put steel braided lines and you sort of shot yourself in the foot, because you can't clamp off the steel braided lines the way you can rubber lines to shut off a particular section of the brakes. So you need to do diagnosis. There'll be one part of the system was causing the problem, but you need to find out which part.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I thought if there was any leaks or anything that would explain, why it would be very difficult to get there, but I guess that's another. Because maybe it's possible that the master cylinder's got a problem, but nothing's leaking.
No. The leaks are a different problem.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I mean, that's certainly a good troubleshooting.
Yeah, we just bled the
methodology.
brakes in my blue spray that I restored the car 8 years ago. And we did that when Dave was over here with a couple of the other folks, part of the tech session. And I had a lot of crud in there, a lot of dirty brake fluid there, but we were able to get a nice hard pedal. Again, we started in the rear furthest away and moved forward. We did it twice, but we were able to finally get a nice firm pedal.
Still
Now,
on
again,
drums, Pete? Still on drums?
I've got drums in the rear, discs in the front, Mike.
Yeah. Drums can be particularly difficult.
Yeah, one thing we did do is I wanted to make sure I did replace, the reason we were into that, I replaced the wheel cylinder on the passenger rear. And so that was why we broke into the system with that. And that I did have to adjust the wheel cylinder to get that firm, to get the best pedal by adjusting the shoes. And now we got a nice pedal.
Okay. Yeah, I just figured with disc brakes, I mean, the pads are gonna,
Yeah, you get disc brakes all around now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the pads are gonna hit, and if you don't see any fluid, there's no air being introduced in the system that way, then it's just a question of, I guess, finding the air. With this kind of system, will the air eventually like find its way up to the highest point, like that kind of thing, or it will, right? Maybe.
One thing that happens when you bleed brakes a lot, when you're pumping the pedal and blasting brakes a lot, is you can actually aerate the fluid. It can actually get tiny bubbles in it, which can be a problem. So if you just let it rest for a while, and then you don't do a lot of furious pumping, but you very gently push the pedal, you'll tend to push bigger bubbles through.
Okay. Yeah, it's been fermenting for about a month now in the garage, so maybe it will work out. But actually, that's a good point, because we were pushing the pedal kind of rapidly to try to get it through, but maybe long and slow is better.
And Alan, you said you want your wife to have a lot of confidence in this car. Why do you have her out there pumping the pedals?
Because the last thing I want to do is ask my oldest son for help. So forget it. She's gung ho. She's gung ho. She wants to get into.
Can I ask a question? Is the job bleeding brakes better when the car is warm as opposed to cold? Should that make any difference?
I don't think it makes any difference.
No?
Yeah, I wouldn't think so, Dave.
The best
One
bleeding system
Alan, what-
the best bleeding system that I ever had was one sold by Snap-on, where you took the lid off the master cylinder and you clamped a different sort of lid on, which had a tube that came from a container of brake fluid, which had a diaphragm in it. You pressurized the top of that container with the diaphragm to about 3 psi, and then that bled into the master cylinder and through the whole system. And you could just go around and open the bleed screws on each wheel one at a time. And it was fantastic for getting air out. And I still have it. And I use it every time I do a new car.
That sounds like a wonderful idea. Can that be purchased still?
Yeah, for
Oh,
about
Snap-on's still
$600.
around. You got lots of money.
Lots of money.
How much are they, Bob? Couple $100?
Oh, they'll be $500 or $600 easily.
Whoa.
I mean, it has the Snap-on name on it, you know.
Yeah.
it. You can get other systems that pressurize the master cylinder or the reservoir to the master cylinder that are less money. Alan, I'm just curious, when you're bleeding, do you have your wife pump up all the pressure and hold the pedal hard and then open the bleed screw?
No, we didn't do that.
Okay, so what's the scenario? What's the operating procedure?
So I say, honey, please, will you please? Please,
Yeah, we
please,
get that.
please. Okay, so I
Don't
had
get tired yet, dear. You just got started now.
right,
It'll be a couple more hours.
Well, because the system was totally empty when I got started, right? I filled it and I told her to look, you know, she was standing kind of cockeyed so she could see the inside of the master cylinder because it drains really quick. So she was pumping and then watching it. I was saying, like, watch the front side of it, and that tells her. And then, but that's how she was doing it. So now I'm at the point where theoretically I shouldn't have. Maybe she could just sit in the car, and I could maybe do what you're saying. Like, you want to pump it up and then open it up.
Well, that's what I was wondering, if you do it that way. I've found that what Michael is referring to, if you're pumping that pedal quickly to build up the pressure in the line, which is the way I learned to do it first, and then open the bleed screw, you get a very strong squirt of fluid out of there. But like Michael said, you'll get a lot of air pumped into the system, just causing what bubble is there to disperse as teeny little bubbles that are harder to get out. So while you've had the system sitting for a while and the bubbles have reached the high point in the lines, I would make sure that if you're under the car, you open the bleed screw and then have her slowly push the pedal down to the floor, then close the bleed screw and then let the pedal up, and do that 3 or 4 times at each cylinder. And make sure you start at the farthest cylinder from the farthest wheel from the master cylinder by the length of the tubing that's going there, and then do the fronts too. But like Michael said, the purest way to do it, the surest way to find it, is to plug one side, figure out whether your soft pedals from the front or the back, and then plug the other side and take care of it that way. But don't aggressively pump the pedal. Just pump it, like you said, slow and easy, and it'll work better.
I just have a quick technical for you, Bob. I always was taught, like you, to do the furthest cylinder first. But have you ever been able to figure out why that is?
I just thought you wanted to clear the line that's farthest from the master cylinder. That's the only reason.
Why would doing the furthest one make a difference? I've often thought about that. I mean, that's what I was taught to, and it's what I do.
Right.
But I keep saying to myself, why am I doing this?
I think it's in the manual too, right? That's what they tell you.
Yeah.
It's just part of the British fuckery.
They tell you that on American cars too. It's not British.
That's because
You-
yeah.
You do have one other option. You can get a very inexpensive self-bleeding bleeder. It's nothing but a suction cup that you put the tube on the bleeder.
And then with a pump, right, Ken?
With a hand pump on it.
You pull it through.
Yes,
So
pull it
I
through.
tried that. I tried that, and I appreciate the thought because I went to you buy the bleeder, and you can return them. Like they call them tool rentals, but you really buy it and you return it. And when I was doing it, and first off, somebody else had already used this kit, but I couldn't get that. I was pumping like a son of a gun. I could not get that thing to draw anything, and it was hard. It was like it was a good kit because like Harbor Freight sells one. It's like a kind of a lightweight one, but this is like one you get from, O'Reilly kind of auto parts or Advanced Auto Parts. So it was a good kit, but I couldn't get it to draw anything. And I'm like, I could, so either I wasn't setting it up right or whatever. Anyway, it's frustrating. It was so hard to pump. I gave up. I just gave up on it.
On those vacuum style bleeders, you just have to think of how a wheel cylinder works. As soon as you evacuate or lower the pressure where the fluid is in the cylinder, it's going to suck air past the seal. There's no reason why the seal wouldn't collapse in a little bit and air would rush into the cylinder. So they are useless.
All right. Well, at least I'm not crazy, but I appreciate the thought because I thought it sounded like a good idea. Like put the suction on each of the calipers, and as God intended it, it's going to work. And it didn't exactly help me. Okay. Last question. Just some best practices for testing for electrical leaks that drain the battery. Because I've noticed that if I leave the battery on, and this car, like, I don't know what's pulling anything anymore because it's all LED. Like what's the best way to troubleshoot if the battery's draining?
You get a seatbelt buzzer out of a Triumph 1500 Spitfire, and you hook it up between the negative terminal of the battery and the ground. And then you start going around, and then the buzzer will start buzzing if there's any sort of leak. And then you go around pulling out fuses and bulbs till it stops.
Well, he only has 2 fuses, so.
No.
Oh, that's right. You're a fuse man. That's right. Sorry.
No. This car has got a 105 amp alternator. I told you I was trying to put in heated seats.
I know.
No. This thing is.
Yeah, just start disconnecting things until the buzzer stops.
Okay, I like that. Sorry, so that's a seatbelt buzzer from a.
Well, the old days cars used to have buzzers for the seatbelts, and they were very convenient. They used very, very little current, and they buzz like crazy. You can hear them from next door, and you just hook it up between the ground cable and the battery. It'll start buzzing if there's a leak, and you just keep disconnecting things until it stops buzzing, and now you know where your problem is.
That's awesome. So can you buy one of those buzzers just from the normal auto store now?
Probably have to get one
Do
for
you
a
have a
wrecking yard or
multimeter?
something.
I do.
Put the multimeter between the ground and the battery terminal. You got to keep looking at it, but you pull the fuses and you'll see the amp being drawn. And it'll suddenly say there's no amperage being drawn, and you know that's where your drain is coming from.
So I'm doing ohms on the multimeter?
Yes.
Okay. And so if it lights up, I guess if you do it at all and with everything shut off, if it's showing you ohms, you got to drain, and then you're pulling the circuit now. You're just cutting the circuits off.
Then one at a time, pull them out. If it doesn't change, put that fuse back in and pull the next one.
I'll be honest with you, I like the buzzing idea, but I'll go with that too.
Buzzing makes a lot of sense because you don't have to be looking all the time.
Yeah. Either one. That's exactly what I was looking for. Okay.
So Alan, you're saying you like to get a good buzz on? Is that what you're telling
Absolutely. That's why I'm a
Oh,
Healy. That's why I'm a Healy driver now. There you go. Little
Yeah,
peanut
yeah,
butter.
Ken's got his stuff up
Here
there.
you Little peanut butter whiskey. I know. We know that stuff. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the comments. Much obliged.
Thanks, Alan.
Betcha.
So Martin's in the process of redoing your in his BJ8, redoing his seats, and then now the Healy 5-speed. Are you putting that into your car, or is that Stu Berry's car?
That's Stu Berry's car.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, you want to start with your question regarding the seats first?
I'll start with the seat. I have a BJ8, and I obtained from Moss vinyl seat cover, the foam inside, and the seat bottom. And the seat bottom, the steel part, is an exact replica. It's pretty remarkable. My problem is it won't fit together. It's like there's too much cushion or not enough vinyl. And I wonder if people put the front on first or the back on first, or is there some trick? The first one I put on, I mean, it's really tight. It's not quite on. The second one, I put a piece of plastic over the foam so that the vinyl will slide, but it's still very difficult to clip the whole seat all the way around. Any thoughts?
So do you think the seat foam, Martin, is the right size?
It looks, I mean, so the seat foam is much bigger than my old seat foam, but it fits right on perfectly. Everything came from Moss, so
That doesn't
I
mean
mean,
anything.
I'm not
Yeah,
about
people-
to.
That doesn't mean that
Well-
it fits. That just means you found a place to buy it.
You're right about that. I mean, I thought about cutting the foam.
Because that's one of the things I've heard. I've never done it myself, Martin, but I've heard seat foams are not as accurate in sizing as they should be, and that sometimes be out to have them shaved.
Okay. I wonder if anybody in the group has experience with.
I think Bob Buell were you going to say something, Bob?
No, it's Richard here, Peter.
Go to
I had my seats foamed last year, and the gentleman that did it had to shave down the foam. He said it was much too big, and he did shave it down, and it looks really great. There's no looseness, there's no nothing. He just shaved it down a little bit, and he put it right on, and it's great.
And do you know, Richard, was that a Moss kit or from somebody else?
It was from, no, it was from Healy Surgeon.
Okay.
They're all the same. That's the problem you'll run into with the foams. They all come from the same mold, and it doesn't make any difference. They're sort of generic, and you do have to trim them. I found that my upholstery guy found the best way to trim them is to get yourself an old electric carving knife, and they'll slice through there like butter. Just shave the bottom of the seat a ½ inch at a time, and try to fit then, and you'll find that the seat cover will eventually get down to where it catches on all the clips all the way around the back, the front and the back.
And Martin, did you save your old foam from the old seats?
I actually didn't take it apart. I
Okay.
didn't take I still
Okay, you
have
haven't
the old
taken,
foam.
okay. So
Oh,
if
you-
if you're matching them up together, is the new foam seem larger than what's the foam that's in the originals?
The new foam is easily twice the thickness.
Oh, well, there you
So my
answered
other
your question.
Well, the other seats are as old as the car.
I
The
understand.
original seats.
Yeah, but you can't
But that's-
compare the old foam with the new foam, Pete, because the old foam is crushed so badly. It has collapsed so badly.
No, I understand. Yeah,
You sit in an old car and you're sitting on the floorboard.
no, you're right.
You put the new seat foams in, and suddenly your head's popping over the top of the windshield. I mean, it's night and day. So don't try to cut your new foams down to the thickness of the old.
No, I wasn't suggesting that, but
No, that's good information. I should probably cut maybe an inch at a time or a half inch at a time, just right off the bottom. Is
I
that what
think
you're
that-
thinking?
I think there are certain jobs you leave to the professionals. Upholstery is one of them,
Uh-huh.
right? Guys who do a lot of this, you know, sometimes they can be worth their weight in jelly beans. But hey,
Okay.
if you're gung ho, right?
One of the problems with the new foams is that they are not foam. And the original foams were much more compressible than the new ones. One of the tricks that we've employed is to drill holes in the bottom of the foam to make it much more, make it softer, I guess, and so that you sink into it more, and that helps with recovering it as well.
How large of a hole do you cut into those, Bob?
About a 3-inch diameter with a 3-inch hole saw.
Yep, okay.
Oh, wow.
Just put them about a half an inch apart all over the bottom of the foam. There is a map that I've seen. I do believe that Norman Knock put it out at one time and marked the bottom of the foam and that you can follow, but he uses much smaller holes. We found that the bigger holes are much better. We recently recovered seats for a guy who is 6'6", and we took the foam and we sliced the top off it, and then we sliced it again and took the middle out of it, and then put it back together. And that seemed to work well for him anyway, and it kept the bottom, the shape of the foam at the bottom, so it still fitted into the seat pan. But no, there's lots of tricks with the upholstery that you have to get into.
Okay. Like, any other questions on your seats, Martin, or any other thoughts?
No, thank you. That's great information. I appreciate that. My second question has to do with another club member's car, Stu Barry. He bought a Toyota conversion, 5-speed to put in, and we're playing around with it. The Toyota main shaft that goes into the Healey is a smaller diameter right at the end spigot than the Austin-Healey transmission main shaft that goes into the engine. And he bought this used from someone who I think passed away. And I wonder if there's a bushing, like a piece that we're missing. Is there a bushing that goes over the Toyota so it fits snugly into the Austin-Healey?
Anyone have any experience with Healey 5-speeds?
Yeah, this is
Stolen?
Bob Britton. You can buy that spigot bearing from Pete Delaney. And it pops right in. You don't even have to pull the old one out of the back of the flywheel. You just, it's like I put one in my 5-speed this past summer. It's like 30 or 40 bucks from him. And it's the bearing in a casing that goes into the old spigot bearing.
Okay. We've been trying to reach him for 2 weeks and we can't. Maybe he's on a cruise. I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
He said he's having a hard time getting a hold of Pete.
Oh, well, that's a problem. That has always been a problem. I do understand Pete is not doing very well health-wise.
Okay.
So someone else who was trying to reach him recently got his wife and mentioned that he was not doing too well. He has some sort of cancer. But
Oh,
yeah, maybe if you can get a hold of his wife, Stephanie, and talk to her, maybe she can help you.
okay. Well, I have the email and the phone number.
Yeah.
I take it you
we
don't.
could-
I take it you don't have a lathe.
No, that was our next move, is to
Yes.
make one.
I just make them out of a bronze bar. They're very easy.
Yeah. So measure it up. I could even use the, I could just measure it up and have it made.
Martin, didn't your conversion come with that bearing?
Well, we don't know if it was lost.
Well, he
it
said he
wasn't
bought it
there.
used, Bob.
Right,
Stu Berry bought it used.
from another
So-
club member, so we don't know if it was there, wasn't there, or whether it's lost. But I just wondered how that fit together. It seemed like we needed another part, which you told me that we do.
Yeah.
So,
Well, if you can get it from Pete, it just taps right in.
yeah. He probably makes it.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
And I bought a used transmission too. That didn't have the bearing, so I had to get it from Pete.
So let me ask you, we have the clutch. The clutch seems smaller than the flywheel or the pressure plate in terms of diameter.
It is. It's a 9-inch
that's-
for, it's 9 or 9.5 inches versus 10. I don't know what car you have, but you know, I had a 10-inch clutch, and I think the clutch in my 5-speed's a little over 9 inches, 9 1/4.
Okay, yeah, that surprised me. I don't know why it wasn't made to fit.
Well, it was big enough for it's the clutch strong enough for a Supra, so gotta be
Yeah.
good for a Healy.
Okay,
I've not had an issue with the clutch, and it's very smooth, engaging.
all right, thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Oh.
Are there any other questions that folks have tonight? That's all those that sent in advance, but anyone else have any questions? Ken? Oh, you're waving goodbye. You're on mute, Ken. You're still on mute. So other questions?
There you go.
Go ahead, Ken.
You were talking about the rooms for Enclave. Do you have to book the whole 4 or 5 nights?
No, you can book for as many nights as you'd like. So
Okay.
there's not a requirement to book for 5 nights. You can book it. So basically it's a 2-step process. One is you would be registering for Enclave at enclave2022.org.
Yeah.
And then from that, when Linda Hockler receives your registration for that, then she'll give you the code, which then you can go to the hotel, the Kalahari Resort, to reserve your rooms.
Okay, super. You were talking about the Norman Knock book. I've been thinking about buying that. Does that have 104 information in it also?
Mike Salter's shaking his head yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely does. There's a lot of 104 information. It's a very good book. Some really great stuff in it.
Okay.
And you know, Michael, is David continuing to update that along the way? Because I mean, Norm's passed away for 5 or 10 years.
I don't think he's updated it. I think it's still the same. I haven't seen anything new in the newer versions that I've seen.
And is it still loose leaf?
No, it's in a spiral binder.
It is now? Okay.
Okay, super. Bob Abbott was kind enough to sell me a BN2 set of side curtains, and unbeknownst to him, it was missing 2 of the straight strips, the longer and the short, the longer one in the shorter one in the middle and the longer one on the bottom. And I called the upholstery people you told me to call out in California that's doing the YouTube, and lo and behold, they told me I could get those from Moss. And what they are is a strip kit for a MGTD side curtains. And I ordered it, and they're perfect. Just about perfect. And if anybody wants that, I can give you the part number of the ones, and they have about 5 different part kits. And the part number for those is 252-208.
And are those unique to BN2s, you said, Ken?
Yes. Yeah, they're all within no more than a quarter of inch, either long or short. And they do, I've tried it on the curtains that Bob sent me, and they do work. So,
Okay.
and the very
Great.
last question I've got, and this is kind of a corny question, but I fell into a Mark II 63 Sprite for $300.
Wow.
Does not run, engine turns over, no rust, but just out of curiosity, can you put a bug eye hood on one of those?
Yes. A lot of people have done that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, you have to take, so basically a square body Sprite underneath is identical to a bug eye. So you just need to take the front fenders off, and you can put a bug eye bonnet on a square body.
Okay. Because I assume the Mark II being an early, I mean, it still has that right curve, in the cowl where the hood would come down on a bug eye, right?
On the ears, are you talking about? On the front, the front horns, rather? On my, yeah.
Yeah, the curve that's up by the front of the door, is that the same on a bug eye and on the Mark II?
So you're talking about at the windscreen? Is that what you're talking about there? Coming against the front of the cowl, in front of the windshield?
Well, it'd be on the side fenders.
The rocker panel, Peter.
Right.
But they're the same,
Okay.
right?
All right.
Bruce?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
All right. I guess I'm going to look for a bug eye hood then.
Hey,
Yeah,
Peter,
so
I
go
have a
ahead.
very pedestrian question, Peter.
Go ahead, Bob.
I got my Griots catalog tonight, and they're promoting rinseless wash and wax. Has anybody tried rinseless wash and wax for somebody who's dying to wash their car but doesn't want to go out in the winter?
So do you spray this on, Bob?
It looks like a normal wax, wash and wax. It comes in a bottle.
I'm
I've
not
never used
familiar
it
with it.
before. Yeah,
Let us know.
it looks
It
like
takes
you
the
just
paint
add,
off.
you add water, but you don't need to rinse it off.
Oh, I know. So Skip Saunders just posted, don't use it. It scratches the paint.
Ah, okay. Good.
That's one of the 39 chats we have tonight.
Thank you.
So,
Save me a paint job.
okay.
Hey,
Other
Can you tell us
questions?
where to get that Norman Knox book? I just Googled it and I didn't see it.
Advertised in the back of the Healy Mark every month.
Ah,
Every month he has an ad in the classifieds.
Thanks, Bob. That's good. So those of you who are New England members, hopefully you received an email yesterday regarding our annual survey. So we're doing planning for 2022. So at your convenience, if you wouldn't mind completing that survey, it'd be most appreciative. Bruce, anything else you'd like to share tonight as our new president? You're on mute, Bruce. There you go.
Yeah, again, Peter, I want to thank you for the wonderful job you do on this technical call. A monthly technical call is an enormous amount of information, and I think that the proof is in the pudding here. We get a good turnout for these, and I want to thank you on behalf of all the people who have benefited from this. And please encourage members to fill in the member survey. We will be having a planning meeting in March, and it will be very helpful to the wing people that are running the wings to have information, feedback from the members, and be able to set up the program for 2022. So please respond to the questionnaire to the survey, and we'll get the wing coordinators to work on setting up the schedule for the year. So thank you again, Peter.
Oh, you're very welcome. So, well, thank you all for your questions tonight. Appreciate it. So our next call will be on the 14th of March. And Mike, do you have a question, Mike Salter, or are you waving goodbye? Okay, so thank you all for your time tonight. And again, if you have questions, please send them in advance. And we'll look forward to talking to you guys on the 14th. Again, if someone's interested in a use of my shop for a tech session on site, let me know, and we'll see if we can arrange that over the next 30 days as well. So thank you all. Good night.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah,
Good night.
happy
Thanks, Peter.
Valentine's Day, all.
Thanks, Peter.
Alan,
Thank
send
you.
your wife some flowers.
Will do. Already done.
There you go. You're the
Bye,
man,
guys.
Alan.
Thanks, guys.
See ya. Bye-bye.